Gals, it's time to pay your entry fee into Snippet Land, but you won't need your checkbook. Welcome to Sobriety Snippets for Ambitious Women Over 40, where we're trading hangovers for higher consciousness, one powerful snippet at a time. I'm Becca Jacobson, and I'm so excited because today's Monday, and we're working on this little book, The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. Gals, if you're following along, last week we looked at the first chapter, or The Domestication and the Dream of the Planet. So that got us oriented. That got us realizing that we had actually been socialized to agree to things that we did not have a choice in. We agreed to all these rules of our society without stopping to go, I don't know, do I even agree with that? Why? Mainly because we were children. And by the time we grow up, we don't even think of them as agreements. We just carry on the traditions, don't we? So he wants us to wake up a little. That's what we got for very, very briefly from last week. Well, today we're doing chapter 2, The First Agreement. But before we do, hello, if you're new in Snippet Land, welcome, my dear. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you made it. But you've arrived on payday. Today is the day that everyone within hearing range of my voice has to pay their Snippet Land entry fee. Right. Are you ready, gals? And this is for those of you who've heard one snippet, and for those of you who've heard 100, and for those who've heard 500. I don't think she exists, except for me. Gals, it is time to pay your snippet bill. And here's how you're going to do it. Very simple, very simple. You don't need a card and you don't need a checkbook. At the end of this snippet, I want you to tap the app that you're using to listen to this show, tap my show, and give me a review. Write me some love, lady. Give me back some goodies. I want you to tap some stars and write at least a couple of sentences telling the world what you think of the snippets. And I'll tell you why I want you to do that so bad. Because together, when you do that and I do this, we can reach more women. More women like us, over 40, struggling with alcohol. Well, I'm not struggling anymore, but you know what I meant. We can reach more women because when you participate, when you come back and you actually tap that star and you write a couple of words, the algorithm perks up and says, oh, people like this show. Let's send it farther out into the universe. And there are women out there who've never heard of the snippets. I mean, that's not fair. Here you are enjoying a snippet, and there they are starving for a snippet, and they don't even know it. Come on, gals. It's time to pay your entry fee to Snippet Land. So don't forget, as soon as this snippet's over, you're going to pay that bill. Okay. The first agreement is called Be Impeccable With Your Word. Be impeccable with your word. You know, when people use words like impeccable, they want us to stop and take notice because he could have used so many different words. He could have chosen so many simpler words. Be honest with your word. He could have said all sorts of things, but he chose impeccable. It actually means without sin or perfection, honesty, right? Be true. Really, it boils down to, in many ways, integrity. Your word matches what you do and believe, right? So none of that cognitive dissonance that we talk about here on the show. Well, that's going to be hard. Listen, gals, here's the fact. Here's the fact. Remember, as we go through these books that we talk about here now and then, we look at them through the lens of our sobriety journey. And so I have to stop and mention this. Alcohol makes us lie. You know it. Come on. It makes us lie. It made me lie. I was always an honest person, but I ended up having to lie because I drank when I said I wouldn't, or I'm late before or I didn't this or that. You know the drill. We have to make up a story or somebody's going to find out how much we're drinking and the effect it's having on our lives. So you might not be a downright out and out, no good liar, but alcohol does cause us to twist the truth, and that's hard on the soul. That's another reason we don't feel good about ourselves. And we're going to find out by looking at this chapter that when we're impeccable with our word, we feel good about ourselves. We feel better about ourselves. So impeccability is darn near to perfection, right? Perfection. Why the word? Why is this so important? Well, I love this because here in Snippet Land, we're always talking about the power of our thoughts, right? Our thoughts are things, our thoughts mold our lives. Well, of course, words are thoughts. You can't say a word without thinking the word, so the two are inextricably bound together. Here's what Ruiz says on page 26. Why your word? Your word is the power that you have to create. Your word is the gift that comes directly from God. The word is not just a sound or a written symbol. The word is a force. It is the power you have to express and communicate, to think, and thereby to create the events in your life. Right? That's what we talk about. You think thoughts, you say those words, and you create your life. So don't be naughty, be impeccable. All right? There's a couple of big ones that I want to pull out of this chapter. One of them is the idea that he wants us to be impeccable about the way we speak about ourselves. He includes us in this, and he's very adamant about this. Never use ugly words towards yourself. Now remember, by words, he means thoughts as well. You don't have to say them out loud. A word in your mind is still a word. He's very careful to include the fact that this must include the way we speak about ourselves. And that is so important to our sobriety journey, right? It's so important. I'm always harping on you here in Snippet Land about it, that we're not allowed to beat ourselves up. It's just not allowed to be done here in Snippet Land. That being kind and compassionate and patient with yourself is a non-negotiable on this journey. And so Ruiz pops in and says, be impeccable with the way you use your word towards yourself. Yes, others too, but he's very careful to point this out. It's a very important point, especially because often words have been used against us in our earlier lives. One word from a parent, just one wrong word from a parent, and we think we're stupid, or we think we're ugly, or we think we're no good. That just from a word that came out of some parent's mouth, and we carry with us the heavy burden, the meanings of those words. So we must be very careful what we say to our children, right? Words have so much power, my dears. Now, the other thing, in addition to not using the word against yourself, he talks about the big G. The big G, gals. What's the big G? Gossip. 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 OMG. We use the word against others when they're not even around. It's pretty low. And yet it's so common. It's just part of our society. You get together, you have a coffee, and you talk about how the person that's not there, what's what that do. I can honestly say I do not participate in gossip anymore, but I did for a long time. I admit it. I did. I really did. This was one of the things that I learned in sobriety. So gossip. We want to be impeccable with the word and not use it against people that we supposedly are friends with. Here is what Ruiz says. Gossiping has become the main form of communication in human society. It's become the way we feel close to each other because it makes us feel better to see someone else feel as badly as we do. There's an old expression that says, misery likes company, and people who are suffering don't want to be all alone. Fear and suffering are an important part of the dream of the planet. They are how the dream of the planet keeps us down. He's talking about the domestication, as he calls it, that we were brought through as children so that we'll fit into the society, which brings us down and makes us feel bad. We feel guilt, we feel shame, and fear and suffering, right? And fear and suffering don't like to be alone, so we gossip. Here's an analogy he gives us on page 38 and 39. Using the analogy of the human mind as a computer, gossip can be compared to a computer virus. A computer virus is a piece of computer language written in the same language all the other codes are written in, but with a harmful intent. This code is inserted into the program of your computer when you least expect it, and most of the time without your awareness. After this code has been introduced, your computer doesn't work quite right, or it doesn't function at all because the codes get so mixed up with so many conflicting messages that it stops producing good results. Human gossip works exactly the same way. For example, you're beginning a new class with a new teacher and you've looked forward to it for a long time. On the first day of class, you run into someone who took the class before who tells you, oh, that instructor was a pompous jerk. He didn't know what he was talking about and he was a pervert, so watch out. You are immediately imprinted with the word and your anticipation of the class is completely altered. He goes on with that story. I won't read it. You get the point. How we use our words, both through gossip. There's more examples in here, but gossip and self-love are the two I really wanted us to focus on in terms of sobriety and our journey, because we never feel good when we gossip, never. And we never feel good when we talk ourselves down. And gals, if you're trying to give up alcohol, we don't do things that make us feel bad, because then we want to drink. Because how do we handle emotions with alcohol? So part of the journey is it's time to be impeccable, time to be honest, time to stop lying, gossiping, and using your word against yourself. And all of that's going to be really, really hard if you're still drinking, because sooner or later, you're going to have to tell a lie. You're going to have to, because alcohol is going to do something that's going to make you have to lie. So the journey continues, right? The journey continues. If you haven't quit drinking yet, I guess the only question is, what are you waiting for? You reach out, you get the support you need, and you come on this journey with us. Gals, as I mentioned, it's payday here in Snippet Land, and I'm ending this episode. So you're up, babe. You're up. It's your turn to take a little action. Pull up, open that app that you're listening to. Open my show and send me buckets and buckets of love. Let's face it, it's the least you can do. Thanks for popping in. Be sure to come back next time so I can keep your head on straight. Sending you buckets of love.